talking about False Idol,
Hey, we're
and
live.
yeah. So we were talking about False Idol, and specifically the. All right. I was talking about how the characters were main characters are kind of side characters and witnessing all this stuff,
Yep.
and the meta play. The meta play being that um, one of the biggest issues that I had with BCB, or particular with the one of the problems that False Idol kind of tackles is the character of Sandy, Mike's long distance girlfriend, and the fact that we as an audience don't really know anything about her, and so False
So in
Idol
the
is,
in the
huh?
original comic, it's that she's just a thing. She's just a thing that's in the comic.
Kind of. She's more. I've drawn the comparison that, or I've said it multiple times on like other things, like Sandy is more of a plot device in a lot of circumstances. She's often used as a means of making Mike feel a certain way, be that he's why is he making him sad because she's not talking to him, making him angry at a character because she doesn't like them, and stuff like that, and it's just wasteful. And so False Idol kind of goes and so the kind of meta narrative of False Idol is kind of bringing more depth and fleshing out this character more and giving her like more of a world to live in. That is, if you look at False Idol like from a bigger picture standpoint, it's very much just world building. It's just building up this whole world and that this character has lived in, that we as an audience and the characters have been completely unaware of, and what sort of implications come from that.
All right. So is it? He said his name is Mike.
Yeah, that's the
So it's kind of like Mike as he's trying to find Sandy and finding out more and more about her personal life. It's kind of. Would you say it's like the issue of that he never really knew her at all?
it's more so like, and the it goes into like why it's called False Idol. The thing is like, and it's not so much like my characterization of Mike, it's the canon's characterization of Mike, that he is infatuated with this girl. He had they were a relation. They had their started their relationship in like third grade or something, and and then she moved away, and so he's just kind of been clinging on to onto her for ever since then, and she has been doing the same thing, and so it's more so that he never really asked about her life. So she never had a need to really tell him about it. He's created this false image of of who she is based off of his memories of her, and the kind of the double play in there, which I haven't really gotten into in the comic yet, but it is a big part of it, is that Sandy's been doing the same thing too. She also had been clinging on to Mike as kind of this sanctuary, this memory of the good times she had before she was forced to move away. Yeah, yeah. And so it kind of plays onto that. It's a very it's not a very straightforward love story, which makes sense because I hated love story. I don't really like to do love stories. I find it a bit tripe, and so I
Yeah, a
wanted to
lot
do
of love
something a little
stories.
more.
They're
Yeah, I
just
wanted
the
to make it
same.
a little
Will
more
they? Won't
interesting.
they? The nonsense.
But yeah, and so like there's a lot of and I or well, especially with the most recent chapter that we've been delving into, Dan, like it really delves into kind of what love is and how it manifests and things like that. Um, like the whole crux are one of the main th- things that happens in this chapter is that we're introduced to this guy Dan, and well, actually, our first mention of him was in like a one of the was in the first chapter where Mike finds out that, oh boy, Sandy has this guy Dan listed as her boy, as in a relationship with this guy on MySpace, which he never knew because Mike is not technologically literate. You know, he doesn't. They never talk about social media and stuff, so it's like, oh, I guess they never use it. Yeah, it's fine. It wasn't too uncommon. It was the comic. Technically, it's a period piece because it takes place in 2008. So that's why they're using MySpace and all these references. Get to have a little fun with that. But yeah, Dan kind of comes, or Mike comes into this thing. He's like, "Oh, this guy, my girlfriend's cheating on me with him, or who is this guy? What's going on here? Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And it turns out, oh wait, no, actually, then he meets him and he's like, "Oh, actually, this guy's gay. Yeah, don't worry, he's not going after your girlfriend. Huh? Don't you? Oh boy, what a relief." And Dan's like, "Yeah, well, actually, well, there may have been something." He's like, oh no. And then so it does like get into like a cheating plot, but it's done. I the thing is like whenever I do like these write, whenever I do like the thing I do with my writing is like um I try to like play with it a lot, kind of look at every angle and be like, how can we like take this up a notch? Like the idea is like, okay, Sandy is I didn't even want Sandy to cheat for in the original conception of the story, but I was like, but what if she did? Like, how would that happen? And how the hell could we do that without, just outright assassinating the character and making her unlikable? I'm like, well, let's see, let's play different things. Like, why would she cheat? And how could this happen? Why would make this? How could this develop? And if you read the comic, like it's very apparent. Like on paper, it shouldn't work. Or like there's be no reason for Sandy to cheat or for either of these two to be interested in a relationship like between Sandy and Dan because Sandy's already in a relationship that she's happy with, or so she says, and Dan is gay. He has no interest in her romantically, but it's like, hey, well, actually, what if we like flip it on its head and kind of use that, that classic fucking uh, friendship becomes love and that sort of way. And the way that but do it in a different, we treat it, it's interesting because False Idol as a love story calls, I have used as adjectives of describing love. I have made the characters say it is torturous, insidious, and creeps up on you. That's the way that it's supposed to be, and that's why it no. That's why they like it. It's kind of no one's fault because it's just like, oh, they, this just kind of happened. No one intended for it to be this way. Between Andy didn't mean for her mean to cheat on Dan, and it didn't mean to be like this. The only thing wrong that happened was that Sandy didn't actually tell Dan that she had a boyfriend. If she had, then no, then it would never. Then he would have had objections and wouldn't have done it. But yeah, this kind, just that kind of thing. I mean, huh. Um, but yeah, and there's a whole other bunch of stuff that we still have. False Idol is at, well, right now I'm working on page 124, and we are just about to get out of this chapter. And at that point, we will hit the halfway point in terms of
Halfway
what I
point.
have planned.
Halfway point with 124 pages.
Yeah.
It's a chunky one, ain't it?
Oh yes. Actually, January was 133 pages, and that was relatively short. That premise, the planning stage of that, was very bare bones. False Idol, I had been sitting on for while I was working on that comic. Like, I was like that. This plan was like, or the idea of False Idol was like boiling in. So I'm like, just like okay, what can you do with this? What do we have here? Like, okay, we'll talk about this, we talk about that, we talk about this and things like that, kind of adding on to it, thinking about like scenarios, plot points and dialogues that we could have. And so I knew, like, if we're going to do false idol is going to be, I intended for false, I knew false idol was going to be like twice the size of January at least, if not like three times, because there's still a lot of stuff that we need to do, or that yeah, that's gonna happen in the comic. Like, yeah, it's one of those things.
So the cast of both of these comics, January Fossil and its original inspiration, Bittersweet Candy Bowl.
Yes.
Yes. About how many characters are in your comic or in the comic?
Okay. So if we're talking about the canon characters, which would be in just January, and we're talking about main characters. Well, in January, let's see. Lucy, Susan, Paolo, and Paolo are kind of the main three characters. Then for supporting characters, you have Rachel, McCain, Mike, and making six. Or well, okay, well I guess I can also throw in Jessica there, so seven. And but it utilizes the entire cast of, or well, as much of the main cast, because Bittersweet Candy Bowl has a big fucking cast. So you have those guys, and then you have Mike, of course, Daisy. Abby does make an appearance. It's for a bit. He kind of has a bit there, and so I think I said Rachel already. I'm gonna assume that
Yes.
I said Rachel, and so that's 10. 10 characters right then and there, and that's not even including like cameos like Jasmine and Matt, and well, Madison doesn't have a speaking role, but she is kind of in the background. Oh, and Carter, so that'd be 13. In False Idol, you have, for the main characters, or at least for the like main group of people, you you get, there's 9 characters. You have McCain, Susan, Kane, Susan, Rachel, Lucy, Mike, Paolo, David, uh, Daisy, and Tess. 9 characters. And that's not including all of the new characters that had to be created for False Idol. Again, it's, which is kind of like one of the biggest things about, like I said, False Idol is meant to be like the more original form of fan comic. It's like taking the fan comic premise and taking it as far into, or blurring it as close as you can to original piece without stepping over the line. And so there's a number of new characters in there. And starting off with the first chapter, you have Will Chutney, who's the private investigator. Then for the modeling agency, you have Charlie Hartman, Alice McCarthy, Ashley Clements, Samantha Cartwright, and you also have Melanie Greenfield, Sandy's mom. Oh, of course, you have Sandy. Of course, she's also in there. So that's 7. And then you have Jay the guard dog, Margot Ross Spiegelman, and that's 9 right there. Then you get into, well, and then 10 once we get into the next chapter, which is Dan. So that's another 10 on top. Yes. 10 in total. Well, 19 in full total. But, oh, wait, right. Also, there's the ending bit, which gets us to talk to Alejandro, Augustus, and Toby. So, actually, make that 22.
22 characters is a lot of characters.
Yeah, it is very ambitious. Yeah, False Idol is it was meant to, is very much an ensemble sort of story, and it's funny because like a friend of mine who he is a fan of the base comic, and he was talking about it, and he was like, oh, the problem with the base comic is you got all these characters that you got a short kind of some get the short end. You can't really you get the short end of the stick of some people. Whenever like I because like we did a read through of the comic, and there was a number of points where I'm like, hey, wait a second, this table where it's like it's lunchtime and you got two characters talking to each other one on one, and I'm like, wait a second, this is lunchtime, this is class. Where are all their friends? Are they just what? Is there no one else at this table? Like, what's going on here? Where is everyone? Like, what's going on? Why is there no background characters? Why is it, or like there's a big dramatic scene, and I'm like, hey, why doesn't this character say something? Why doesn't this character say something? Where's this character? What is going on in this? And blah blah blah.
So you can say it just kind of forgot what its setting is.
No, it's more so just well, I chalk it up more to convenience of writing. It's like, oh, I need to cat these characters on a one-on-one. What scenario would cater to that? Oh, but they're in school right now, so because the next scene is going to still be in school, so they would guess, oh, well, hey, they go to lunch and they sit at this table. Where's everyone else? I don't know. They're not important, so it's not important. But it does raise those questions. And the thing that my friend brought up was like, oh, you have all these characters, and you can't really do, and you can't always have them in everything, or you don't have. How are you supposed to balance out like screen time and balance who gets say what? And one of the things with False Idol is that, or that I try to do with it, is that it is played as an ensemble piece, and it's the fact that you have these nine characters, these base nine characters, all all there, is you get chances for each of them to do and shine in their own special way. So, like in particular, one of the characters that is in False Idol that wasn't really in January, or at least didn't really get a chance to shine or be a real character, is a character named David, because David is a stereotypical kind of dumb comic relief character. And I was like, for January, it's such a serious story. I didn't want to put him in. I didn't want to really do anything with him because it's like I don't think that there's really anything, because I think that he'd just detract from the scene and the severity of the situation. But but in False Idol, he works perfectly because he has shown interest in being like a guy for adventure. I'm gonna go on an adventure. We're gonna solve mysteries and stuff. And so this is like his chance to actually be able to do that. So you got like a little quit, and so you kind of get little quips of him being like, "I want answers," doing stereotypical investigator stuff that he would only do because he sees that on TV and stuff. And it's great laugh. It's a great fucking way for me to kind of bring brevity to a scene, or like a great example is from this most recent chapter, because they when Mike is talking with Dan tells him the story of the day that he found out that Sandy had a boyfriend, and it's this massive scene. It's let me see, let me count it up: 91 to 122. Yeah. So yeah, it's like 31 pages long. It's 31 pages of just, and it's a it's it'd be, it's a terrible thing on paper, but it's 31 this whole chapter is just flashbacks. Is this really long flashback, and there's a flashback within the flashback in that scene, and there's a continuation of that flashback, or well, yeah, there's a continuation of the original flashback. So it's kind of weird. So how do you balance that? Well, in particular, um, there's a number of fake outs. For instance, like at one point, the what the whole premise of this scene or this flashback is that Dan and Sandy go on a date, or well, kind of a date, to a carnival. It's like this annual tradition that they go to the carnival, ride some rides, and have some fun and all that jazz. And at the end, like, oh, Sandy and Dan is like, they're like freshmen at this point, and so Dan has his learner's permit, and so he's able to drive Sandy to the carnival. That's the whole reason that he was able to they were able to go in the first place, was because Dan was able to drive her to the fair and they'd have fun. Anyway, whole fallout happens, bicker, drama happens for like let's see, 91, 116, 15 or 14, yeah, 15, no, 25 pages. So 25 pages in, like we finally get to the end of the seeming end of that scene where they're like, where Dan like turns Sandy down. It's like, no, I cannot be with you. I'm sorry. Look, you gotta work through this on your own. And it hurts him. They both part their ways. And Dan's about to be like set up the next scene. It's like, oh well, we didn't know anything about this until like afterwards. He's about the next day, this was gonna happen. But then one character named McCain, who is like, he's this very blunt and kind of the uber straight man almost. Like his whole shtick is just go looking at a situation and being like, "Oh, obvious answer is this. You're stupid." And everyone just tells him, "Shut up, McCain. We don't want to do the obvious thing. We want to fucking bicker and bicker or whatever." It's just supposed to be fun. So McCain pipes in and he says, "Hey, wait a second. What do you mean the next day after? You guys just left at the end?" And Dan's like, "Yes, okay, yeah, we needed space and that stuff." And McCain's like, "No, I get that. It's just that, well, didn't you drive her there?" And cuts over to Sandy being like, wait, hold on. I, I kind of need a ride." So they have an awkward. So there's another like 2-page scene where they have an awkward drive home, and there's an actual bit more in there here. And then it almost ends. And well, one of the things I should mention, one of the things or problems that I have in working on False Idol is that there's a number of times where because it's a mystery and it's so plotted out, like I know, like, okay, I got to get the characters to talk about this. I got to get us so that to talk about this so that we can talk about this next scene. So we can prompt up this next scene. How do I get these characters to talk about that? And that's kind of where the perks of having like this many characters, these 9 characters, come in, because they all have their own different perspectives and ways of viewing things. So so like at the end of that scene, like Dan gives this heartfelt fucking speech to Sandy. Is like, "Hey, you gotta do." He says, "Look, you can't look to me. Don't break up with your boyfriend to be with me. I don't want that on my chest. Like, whatever you do." He basically tells her to fix her own shit, and whatever she does, whether that's stay in her relationship or break up with him, like that's has to be on her. That's a choice that she has to make, and and she has to do it for herself and for her boyfriend. Because if she really because it turns out that she never told her boyfriend about Dan, and so he's pretty much telling her to communicate with her boyfriend about the problems that she has in order to fix their relationship. If that doesn't work out, then that's fine. If it does work out, that's even better. But that's such a decision. How she does that, however, that's able to happen, that's something that Sandy has to make on her own. And it's really nice, really heartbreaking, and serious scene. And so I'm like, okay, but I know that there's more to this. There's more. There's certainly more that's supposed to happen in here. There's another scene that's supposed to happen where, like, They come back the next day at school, and Sandy's happy and like, oh, a bit too fucking happy. Too happy to have told her boyfriend everything. And so they're like, oh no, something's wrong. And, but the question is like, who the fuck would ask, or how the hell would you ask? What questions would you ask? How could you possibly segue from this, what looks to be a very solid ending to this scene, and be like, wait, no, there's more going on. How the hell do we know that? The obvious question to ask is, well, if she was supposed to tell Mike about this, how the hell did she not know that? How the hell does Mike still not know that? And so there's a number of ways of tackling that question. It's like, okay, well, you could have like a serious character be like, oh, well, well, wait, isn't there this discrepancy about it? Like that. But on the one hand, that's kind of lame. And so goes back to what I was saying about the character of David, the comic relief. And that's when I hit gold, because I realized, oh sweet, you know what I can do? I can do this page. So let me drop it in the chat for you if it'll fucking actually drag. There we go. Oh, wait, that's the wrong page. Wrong page. That's the previous page. Why did it drag? Why did it drag that? The fucking cursor's being weird. Yeah, this page, and I'm like, this is great. This is a perfect fucking scene transition, and I'm so fucking happy with it.
Let me
Because
try to get bigger version of this.
oh yeah, it's a very big file, so I wouldn't be too surprised.
Share screen. There we go. This is better.
Yeah, but essentially, like, this is a great example of like showcasing or utilizing every character and showcasing like everyone's different perspectives. Because in one hand, like, you could just have it like, oh, everyone has their different reactions, like, it's different reaction shots, like, come on, but we can express ourselves better than that. And just the fucking bit of David, bit of like, well, the first two panels pretty much lay it out immediately. It's like everyone in the group, based on that dramatic story, are gonna be like suckered in. They're gonna be like, they'd be focused on like, oh no, you let her get away. Oh, that's so sweet. How nice. Us having it be David to be like, but it's wrong. This man is a liar and gay. I'm like, that's a great shock. That's a great way to kind of jumpstart a scene and be like, haha, we've reset the fucking emotional shift or emotional tone of this, and we're gonna be able to reset it so that when we get into the next scene, it's a little less jarring, and also kind of raise questions, but do it in a comedic yet fitting way. Yeah. Yeah. Like the fact that David doesn't say it like, if Sandy told this stuff to Mike, then why doesn't Mike know about this? He doesn't say it like that. He's like, if Sandy told Mike about you, how come Mike never bitched about it? Because he would do that. It's great. And when they point out the fact that, oh, well, the obvious answer is that, Sandy didn't tell Mike because she just didn't. And David brings up a good point of, yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. This guy, everything he said was right. He followed all the rules and hammered it home with the utmost sincerity. If for Sandy to turn around and just not tell Mike anything about what happened that night. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That'd be so cold. She'd be a bitch. She'd be a super bitch. That doesn't sound right. No. Like, well, yeah. And it's great.
So you put a lot of work into like how to actually properly use a comic relief, which is great because there's so many times where I see comic reliefs and it's just catchphrase.
Oh yeah.
One-off joke.
well, it, well, yeah, that's like again, that's kind of the one thing that I would that made me not want to use him in January, even though January does have like comedic moments, and it does actually kind of have a comic relief, but in that comic, it's more Paolo's role, and he's more subdued, whereas David is a very excitable character. Um, the one thing, like the main thing I wouldn't say is that I wouldn't say like I put a lot of time into uh into fleshing out, or well, not just fleshing out, but I spent a lot of time like, or I spend a lot more thoughts into dialogue, and particular like what a character is saying, what are they talking about, how would they express themselves, and I spend because as I'm sure you can attest to, the one of if not the most important part of a webcomic in any like piece of storytelling or medium is your characters, and it's not just like having them be likable, because anyone can be likable. Well, it's building them up and making them into a person, and not, or like making them understandable. Making them understandable can is more primary to them being like realistic in to a lesser degree. Being realistic is also very fair, but if you can like if if you have a character that's wacky and goofy and absolutely stupid, like being stupid, like if as long as the reader is able to bite that and be like, okay, I accept this, then then it's fine for them to be like this extra, but you got to make sure to balance it right. And the thing I like to do is like, or that I point out is kind of purpose built characters. That's the thing I try to steer away from, or I kind of criticize, because like in particular, so keeping on David, it's like he's a if in the canon he is more of like a purpose built character. He kind of has one note and he sticks to it. He doesn't really steer too far from it. He doesn't really have the ability to flesh himself out more, or set himself aside from that. He right now in the comic, he is basically playing shipmaster and trying to be like, oh, you should be with this girl. Hello, don't you want to be with this girl and whatever? I'm gonna make I want this thing to happen. That's like his whole thing now, and my God, that's really fucking stupid, and it shows a lack of creativity because as like I said, it's showing David. You don't have to do the thing that irks me about like comic relief characters like David is that, or well, one the things that irks me when people are like, ah, let's flesh him out, make Adam with a twist, is that old nugget of, ah, they're so sweet and happy because really they are hiding this deep seated trauma, and really they are smart and they
It's
understand
actually
what
because
this. I'm
they're
like,
miserable.
and I'm like, oh my God, dude, no, dude, you don't have to fucking do that, man. Just be fucking happy and oblivious.
You would just be
There's
happy.
nothing wrong with it, okay? You can totally fucking do that. It's totally fine to have a stupid and silly character, and if you want to like add more growth, you want to make him learn, like that too can be fine. Show his interest and stuff, like, and that's one of the things that January does a lot, is like, or at least with David, is that it plays to his interests. Like if he says something, or one the jokes that I want to, the kind of recurring joke of David for January is that he's kind of this guy. He's kind of he has the right mind, but got the wrong he's got a good eye, but it's focused on the wrong things. So like when so like when Dan turns down Sandy, like everyone kind of let me pull up the page in particular. Here it is. Like when he turns his back to her, like everyone's it's meant to be like this reaction montage almost. Where it's like every or yeah, that's what this part's supposed to be. Where I can drop it in again actually as well. Oh, but yeah, here it is. Yeah, particular the that long panel on the second row there, because I like this scene or this page in particular. As like, okay, there's a few ways that I wanted to go about this. One was that we'd have like this wide shot of like all the characters, like, oh my god, like jaw dropped, oh my god, whoa, what did you, whoa, you turned her down, why would you do that, oh my god. And I'm like, it'd be so redundant because everyone would probably have the same reaction. But throw in David there because he has the most unique interaction about it. Because he has a different perspective of it. He's like, oh, because everyone's like, oh, the logical response would be, oh, you turned down this girl even though you really loved her and it was so sweet and she really liked you too. Why would you do that? And David just comes in and is like, what the fuck? You turned down a solid 10. What are you, gay?
Yes,
And it's
I'm
like,
gay.
yes, that's David. Thank you. Like, yes, give me more of that. And Paolo as a sidekick being like, is that kind of mirroring what I would assume the reader callback, flashback, uh, uh, pushback would be, is like, well, if you can you still be gay if you fall in love with a girl? Then pretty much me as the author being like, well, in the canon, a lesbian fucked a dude, and she's still considered lesbian. So you know what, I'm taking this one. I'm gonna take this one. No joke, that is an actual plot point. And then we finally get the
He got
serious.
Rossed.
Oh, but and then of course the actual question gets raised. But wait, you loved her, she loved you, and everything was gonna. Wouldn't it be the best option if you had taken it, or if you had accepted her? Wouldn't that be the best thing for both of you? And then Mike being like, "Hey, what the hell? Lucy, you're supposed to be about me. How dare you? What the fuck are you talking about? Fuck you." But yeah, it's just a example of taking everything that you get and using every kind of uh, using every character that you got in your disposal. Although it's 9 characters, so some of them get kind of left in the dust. Rachel doesn't have any lines in this in this. Well, no, she does have like one bit in like the 4th page of this chapter, but she gets kind of skewed. She gets left in the dust. Tess really doesn't get any. Tess is gonna have like one line like near the end of there, but yeah, but primarily just being able to flesh it out and being like, okay, here's all these characters and here's difference of perspective, because that's the way that I like to tackle like these scenes and these conflicts, and kind of coming up with dialogue and stuff like that is just fleshing out characters, thinking about like dialogue. What would they do? What would they say? How would they react? What are they thinking? Or what's the problem with them in this scene? What's the conflict that they're trying to answer? What is the question that they're trying to solve? And all this jazz. And it's kind of like, just playing with it. Just building it up and seeing where it goes, essentially.
All right.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the inspirations that you had for this comic?
For this comic, I get, well, the only one I'd say like that was the only like thing I kind of like half took notes from, like during False Idol, is a book that I actually reference in makes a reference in the comic, and I already said in the form of a name, and I already name dropped them earlier when we were listing the cast. It's Margot Roth Spiegelman, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because you read the Hank Green book Paper Towns. If you've never read it, it's about this guy who's like simping hard over this cool kind of edgy popular girl, and then all who's like has a track record of running away and stuff. And so like one night she takes him to like this observatory or like or aquarium or something. They have like a one night of fun, and then next day she runs away and disappears. And so the story is about and him and his friend Grover. I think I may be mixing it up with Percy Jackson, but his friend and her best friend going on this road trip to find like this solve this mystery, because she's like hidden a lot of she likes to hide clues about where she's going and what's going on and blah blah blah. And so he's like going on this adventure to find out more about her. And he finds like, oh, she's been hanging out with like these guys, and now actually she's like kind of distant to these people and that sort of thing. And I never finished the book actually. I watched a review of the movie when it came out, and I realized, oh, the ending joke of it is that actually Margot Roth Spiegelman is just nothing. There's no real mystery. She's just a person. She's just like, oh yeah, I just left it there so that you know that I'm okay. I just want to go live in a fucking nowhere place and be free, which means dying of starvation as a homeless fucking bum or some shit. I don't know. It's like
All
that's
right.
the whole joke. The whole point of it is that Margot's actually fucking nothing. She's not that important and not that great. She wasn't actually really interested in the boy. She just wanted to make him feel nice before she
Jesus.
let him go away. And so he's able. And the real moral of the story is him building this friendship with his best friend and her best friend, and living happily and enjoying their time as kids. And I was like, okay. And so like Falls Idol is kind of taking that concept and
Is
being
that
like,
a
okay,
video
what if we
game?
actually made Margot a real person though? What if there was actually something to learn? Like actually goes on this adventure. He starts finding and he starts piecing together this puzzle. But he but or actually that's kind of the twist of False Idol, is that it's not, if you're coming at it as like a mystery, all the mystery or all the clues are like, I like to think that it's really hard to figure it out, like what actually happened. If you can figure, you would not be able, I do not think that anyone would be able to figure out like what actually happened, or what's what the clues actually mean until like the end, or at least until the next chapter when finally reveal like what the connective tissue is. Because like the running joke in the comic, and I didn't realize it until um I did a reread of it with my friend, and I was looking through the dialogue. There's a number of times where they just go like, all right, hey, aren't we here, we're here to still find out about Sandy though. Oh, and like at every turn they just learn more shit that is seemingly not related to Sandy. Like they go to the modeling agency, and they first speak with their manager, or Charlie, and they're like, hey, we want to go talk to the, hey, or Charlie's like, no, you're not coming in because and it's a big knock to the canon because most of the characters are naked because they Teshi just didn't draw them with clothes.
It's a
And
furry comic,
so
so
they're like, Okay, I don't like this. I ain't gonna fucking do this. Or she's like, no, I'm not letting a bunch of nude fucking people talk to my pretty girls. Okay, no, I don't want that. That's there's a little joke because two of the characters are fully clothed. So they're like, oh, I'm clothed. And he's like, yeah, me too. It's like, okay, fair enough. You two can go behind there, talk to him. It's fine. And then, but that conflict like derails into like this fucking this 2-page fucking diatribe of Tess's collar being like rare this rare fashion accessory that was actually a recalled piece that pe- had to be recalled because there was a manufacturing error on all of this stuff, and it's actually very in that way it is priceless because it's not because it slipped through the cracks. And so and then another thing of like, okay, now we have to okay, now that we got that settled, we can finally talk to the models, right? Okay, sweet, sure. But first things first, we got to split the group because there's 9 people, and I don't want 9 people talking to all of my girls. Like that's fucking ridiculous. So you go backstage. I'm gonna handle these guys, and we got to do this. And there's like, and really the only piece of information that they find out is that Sandy punched the shit out of a little girl before she ran away. Apparently, she wanted that girl's help in running away, and she said no. That's all. That is the all the information that is privy to the investigation.
So
Right there.
you do have the ending already planned out for
Oh
this
yes, of
mystery.
course.
Uh,
Mhm.
Excellent. Because I see
It
that
is.
problem with a lot of mysteries. It's like we don't know where it's going to end yet. It's like, why would you write a mystery and you don't know how to solve the mystery yourself?
Oh no, I there's like a lot of things. There it's a very it's well, the procedure is convoluted, but there's like a bunch of clues, and all the clues are seemingly benign. For instance, like I said, that whole bit where Sandy punches the girl, that's 2 pages. One of them is mostly wordless, and the second page, it's only like 3 panels where you get to see her. So in real, and that's so that is a one, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, just say 4 pages in a chapter that is 1, 10, 20, 30, 34, 32. Wait, no, 48 pages long. So really, that's it. The majority of that is learning about everything else around the modeling agency. You get this story about this girl that got attacked at the fashion show, and because of that, all the bitchy characters got fired, and so remodeled their whole agency to kind of prevent that sort of thing from happening ever again, and and kind of building into that. It's something that you would never even think about, or it's something that is so fucking stupid, or it's not even, or not that it's stupid, it's just seeming so pointless seeming, but it's very integral to one thing, and that is once again world building. Because what interested me in False Idol was being able to be like, or what interested me in this comic was how does everything work. It's like, okay, Sandy is work. How does she work? How does her work go? And like the obvious answer, or how's her work life? Her obvious answer is, oh, it's stressful. You know, she has to take care of her body, and she has to deal with the beauty standards and bitchy people, and all that jazz. I'm like, well, actually, what if we flip that on its head? Actually, no more bitches, no bitches. It's actually a very nice place, relaxed fucking environment, and everyone there's chill. They're all grounded. They're all down to earth, grounded people, and that's fair. And she's very happy there. Hmm. Okay. Well, then, what is the conflict? How would we get well then how does this company work? Like, okay, they go with gigs or whatever, blah blah blah. How would that even happen? and just kind of building up that ball into what it can be. That's kind of where that came from. But yeah,
Yeah, I kind of got some experience of what it's like in the backstage of performance arts,
oh
and
yeah,
most people don't actually act like the snooty bitches that you would see until like deadlines start coming up.
yeah,
Then
shit
there's a
needs to
lot
be
of stress
done.
and everything needs to be done and every last second thing. And then suddenly all the mics are not working. So
Oh yeah,
everybody's on edge.
oh yeah. I've been in a few plays. Thankfully, no problems like that. But or well, no, we don't. Well, thankfully, I think the auditorium that we were in was relatively small, so we'd never used mics.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I can only imagine the problems that would arise from there.
Oh yeah. The last show I was at, when everybody was setting up their music, one person's music, when they put it up on the computer, it reset the volume on everybody else's music, so nothing was in sync anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
And we don't know. The sound guy just did not know why that happened. It's just
I will say that was that is one of, that reminds me. In January, there is a play scene. There's a which was one of my favorite things to work on. It was probably like where probably one of the most fun scenes that I had to write because it was a play and like most of the scenes in January it's a play on a canon event because the canon did have a play scene but it was so dull. It was boring because it tried to do that thing of, ooh, emotional moment between these two characters that are forced in a situation to act. And ooh, that they're saying it very mirrors like their real feelings. But is it true or is it just a play? I'm like, no, it's just a play. Yeah, no, I know that. It's just a play. You don't have to. You're not fooling anyone.
no,
You're stupid but they but January like what and it's an example of how I kind of change how it tweaks certain things is because in January one of the first things that happens is because Mike was supposed to be in that play and the character Lucy who is the actual main character of January um she is also in the play and she's like during this time she's depressed, she's very sad and all that jazz and she's mentally shut down. But instead of Mike in that being in that position and being in the play, Paolo's in the play. And so originally the idea was just like I didn't even want to do the play because I was like, oh, the play's so stupid, it's so pointless. Like there's all these fucking psych outs, and it really amounts to nothing. I don't. I just want to be done with it. I don't. We'll just say that it happens perfectly, and we'll skim over it. It's fine. But then I'm like, huh, wait a second, because I've been in few plays, and I know like the best show is never the one that goes perfectly. It's when
never.
something bad happens. And so
Someone has to fall in the orchestra pit.
no,
It's not a good show until someone steps off the stage.
oh no. No, even worse. I got Paolo. Paolo gets subbed in like a last minute. And so
Oh
like
no.
they
The last minute
like
understudy.
they're constantly hammering home like remember you get those lines down, lines down. Yeah. And so like, and he does like it and I believe like in my mind he kind of did. It's just that he got thrown off because like there's this like they were doing a special effects thing where they're like blowing wind at him while he's like doing this action climb or whatever. And he's like, oh my god, are there actual like fucking rocks or dust in there? And so he finally like, comes up, gets out of there, gets in his dramatic scene, and he's like, ah, fuck, because his throat got all dry from the wind. It's like, oh, sorry, and it completely throws him off his game, and he completely fucking blanks. He just gets a whole total brain fart. He's like, oh fuck, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. He doesn't
Not the
remember.
most
But
heroic
thankfully,
moment.
yeah, yeah. But thankfully, Lucy remembers the line, or the line that he's supposed to have. So she kind of covers for him and says the line in a way that's natural for her character. He's like, "Ah, yeah, yeah," and then he finishes his line proper. And then there's another awkward pause, and Lucy's like, "What the fuck is what the fuck, Paolo? What are you doing? Do I have to fucking feed you all your lines?" Paolo's like, "No, but wait, no, it's your line next. I remember now. I come in, say this, and then you say something else, and then I say this." Lucy's like, "Wait, oh, fuck, you're right." Like, now she can't remember what it is. Like, what
Oh,
was the fucking line?
I'm having so many flashbacks right now.
and yeah, and essentially what happens is because Paolo's like, fuck. They get a flashback to explain, like, oh, actually, what happened was, like, he never, like, he gets an argument. He's like, oh, why would I, with this person that's trying to, like, help him get his lines down. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'll help you get your lines down. And she's like, and so Paolo pretty much says what he says on stage. It's like, okay, I come in, say this line, and then Lucy says something, and then I say this, and then, but the character's like, oh, well, shouldn't you? You should learn Lucy's lines too. And Paolo's like, wow, why the fuck would I do that? I'm not her. And she explains, like, oh, in case something happens or something like that, you want to know. And then, long story short, what happens is Paolo forgets 90% of the fucking play, and he just ad libs. He just starts ad libbing on stage about what the fuck is happening.
Oh no.
But Lucy kind of recovers. She's like, okay, wait, I remember now. I can't. And she's like, okay, this thing happened. This thing happens. And Paolo, because he still doesn't remember her, he starts fucking being like, he starts poking holes into her argument, like because that's what he would do if he was in that. He starts thinking, like, what would I do in this situation?
He
So,
starts
like,
acting like himself instead of the character he's supposed to be playing.
exactly. What's the? I think the exact thing was like, if I can pull up the page here, is where at here. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So, like the line that Lucy's supposed to say is like, um, many had, or wait, no, the thing was like he flubbed the line, or he said the line and the wrong time, or with the wrong delivery, where he remembers, like, what, because the Lucy's line was like, she's meant to say this dramatic reveal, like, oh, I am your sister. And but Paolo, like, remembers that, but he doesn't remember, like, he doesn't know how to cover, so he just blurts out, you're my sister. It's like, oh fuck, god damn it. And so it's just a lot of hilarity. But then he's like, oh wait, but then he remembers his own line, which is, but my sister's dead. So he's like, but wait, I don't. Oh no, he starts getting confused. And she's like, fuck it, okay, shut up, I got it now. She's like, many had wished it so. So many had wished it so that I be dead. They sent me to the execution chamber as a mere infant. And then Paolo's like interjects, like, wait a second, wait, they sent you to an execution chamber as an infant? And it's like, yes, that's what I just said. Just fucking shut the fuck up. But she starts to go on her monologue. And Paolo interjects again. He's like, but wait, hold on. I'm still trying to fucking wrap my head around this whole thing. And Paolo's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Did you read the damn script? And Paolo's like, I kind of just roll with it. Okay, I kind of forgot. Okay. So he ends up just rewriting the whole thing until he remembers what his next thing is, which is to, like, apologize and hug Lucy. And it's layered thing, because on one hand, like, it's just a silly joke, because Paolo's screwing everything up. But what I wanted to do was, like, take a play on that the cliched, oh, is it just a play? Does him saying like, oh, I'm sorry for leaving you alone, like, is that really his character? Is that really him? Oh, is it the layered dialogue? I'm like, no, 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 no. But let's have some fun with this. What if they actually forgot their fucking lines? What if let's change it? So like you as a reader aren't quite sure which part's are real and which part isn't. It really starts to become a question of, okay, is it actually like his saying this, or is he just remembering how this is supposed to go? And when he does do that, it's still undercut with the fact that he completely derailed the direction of the story. He made it so like he's like, oh, fuck those guys. I hate them. How dare they? They tried to murder my sister, and then told me that she died of some random shit. Probably just so that I would be able to kill you and not fucking think about it. Those guys are fucking assholes. So how about we go down there and kill them all? Fuck it. And I'm just gonna put the page here because it is one of my favorite fucking scenes in the comic for a multitude of reasons, and some of the expressions in here are just absolutely priceless. If my fucking cursor will work properly, there you go. Drop in there.
It's new mouse time.
Yeah. No, God, I hope not. I just bought a new fucking controller, but yeah.
About how long have you been working on the comic?
Oh my God, it's been like 5 years now for like altogether. If we're talking January and False Idol, it's been like 5 years. But I just want to point out, like, I love that joke because Lucy's like, she's awestruck, and it was kind of like a question of, okay, like Lucy is supposed to be depressed in this whole bit, and I'm like, the play is completely pointless because it doesn't change her at all. It doesn't. We don't even get a better peek into how she really feels, whether or not she is depressed or not. And so I'm like, by having Paolo fuck up, it throws a wrench into everything. Lucy was depressed. She was like really sad. But once Paolo started fucking up and started being himself, it kind of shook her away. She's like, she's kind of angry, like, Paolo, what the fuck's wrong with you? And then she's like, oh, well, and then this is her being like, wow, this kind of breaks free of it. And it's such a great fucking joke because she's like seeing him. Basically, Paolo's like, hey, we're gonna take this fucking story and shove it to the ground, burn it all down. And she's like, oh, like, well, he's like, will you join me? And Lisa's like, and she can look behind to see the stage director absolutely losing her shit, ready to just jump in there and kill him on stage. She's like,
sure, why not?
Yeah, fuck it. They've already cursed on stage before already, by the way. So she's like, yeah, screw it. Yeah, let's have fun. Why not? Let's just do it. Fuck it. And that's like that breaks her out of the depression. She's just like, yeah, screw it. Let's do it. Let's just have some fun. I was so stupid. This was so dumb. Why not? Why the fuck not? And it's so good. And also that last panel was just cute. I love that.
Who knows what the hell's going on anymore?
Huh?
So, who knows what the hell's going on anymore, right?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, that wasn't the stage director. That was the regular director. The girl with the curly hair is the stage director. There's another joke like at the end or in the next page where she's like looking at them both like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And she kind of does that angel and devil on the shoulder at the bit. She's like the angel's like, come on, we gotta put a stop to this. This is ridiculous. You're the stage manager. You can control this. You don't have to. We can just say, fuck them. We're not doing that. But then the devil on her shoulder is like, yeah, but this is way more interesting. Let's see where this is going. Like, you know what? Screw it. Ship's already burning. Let's just we'll light up some fireworks and see where this goes. Everyone's just like, fuck it, let's just do it. Why not?
It's great. You have I love your passion for your comic.
Yeah.
It is fascinating just to hear you talk about it.
Oh yeah, like it is. It has been. Yeah, passion is probably like the main fucking word I'd use to describe working on like Falls Idol in January, because it is a fan comic in the weirdest sense, because I hate BCB. If you've ever watched any of my videos on my YouTube channel, I I have a series called Let's Rant, where essentially I go through each chapter that I haven't read yet, kind of give my reaction and kind of rant about like my feelings and summarize what this chapter is. And a lot of them are kind of just pointless or infuriating. And there's a number of really good bits in there. And so January, I've said this before once, but January was kind of like the ramblings of a madman. Essentially, I was just so fucking upset and angry with the comic, and I hated so much stuff that it was literally driving me insane. Like I was like screaming and ranting and raving in my car about stuff. Oh my god, it's my boy! Shit,
Standing high, I
what?
know you like
How the fuck are
BCB.
you here? What the fuck is this? Night, my boy. I can't even see it. I want to see it. Where's Santon? Oh my god. I wait. Why was it on private chat and not comments? That is so fucking. No wonder I didn't see anything. I would have said hi so much earlier. But
Just-
yeah. But yeah, essentially fucking January was like it was done as like my rehabilitation process. That's what this whole fucking thing has been, is just this long-term rehabilitation and pulling me back out of, so that I could say everything I want. I'm like, we have this comic and we're gonna just let's just roll with it. Let's take this time, take our time with it, say everything that we need to say whatever, fucking go through every aside that we can possibly think of, talk about the stuff that we didn't get to talk about in the canon, and work through things that we never got to see, and kind of explore all of these options, and hopefully by the end of it be better as art at art, hopefully, which it all worked out.
yeah.
um
There's definitely improvement from when you started with January to where you are right now.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Especially looking at that page that I just showed you, like that was one of the most experimental bits. Like that whole play part, the whole play parts, like it was one of the most experimental like art styles that I tried to do just to see. I was like, oh, let's try some shading. And I realized, oh, this is way too much. I don't know how much is too much and where this actually works. And it makes everything look kind of smudged. Let's never do this again, actually. But some bits actually stayed, and some parts actually, uh, yeah, some parts were taken into account. Some parts kind of were fallen to the wayside. Some parts were adjusted. But yeah, um, that was also one big thing about January, was that at the time, like I was in this rut essentially, where I just couldn't do anything. I had an idea for a comic or story that I wanted to do, and I just couldn't do it because I kept thinking like I'd like force myself to make one page, and then I was like, God, I can't do it. I can't. I'm like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I fucking hate this. I fucking hate every part of this because it looks like shit, and I don't like that. And how do I get it better? And I'm like, I don't know. Like when everything needs to be improved, where do you start? What do I do? Like I can't. I'm not at that level yet, but I know that I can't get to that level unless I make something. And so, January became that thing to make by making it so long. Like it became the practice. I practiced by doing, and doing January was 2 years of practicing making things, making comics, and it really helped a lot because in making that, I learned a lot, or I became more comfortable in my writing and pacing. Uh, Characters and body anatomy kind of became a lot better in my opinion. Like the early pages of January, they are very stick. They are very slim and slender people. They have very tiny fucking arms and lanky bodies, and their heads are a bit too disjointed from their
It
necks
almost
and
looks like they
stuff.
don't have bones, or they're almost nothing but bones.
I'd say they don't have shoulders a lot of the times. Like, yeah, I did that stupid trick of, you draw the neck first and you go off of the neck. And so they have the most shallow shoulders in the fucking world. And then I'm like, oh, wait, actually, you know what? Let's tweak this. Let's actually use that like Skelly Man thing, see how it goes.
The shoulders don't connect to the back and the neck like they're supposed to.
Yeah. Or rather, no, it's just fused to the neck,
Yeah.
rather. Unless you have like a necklace, unless you have like a scarf or a jacket, and then okay, now we have to draw a collar. Now you're connected to the
Did the
collar.
Hanna-Barbera trick.
Of course, easiest. And that there is the reason why I use push to talk. Okay.
It sounded like you just took a big hit of a stogie, dude.
I vape. It's nicotine. Okay. But
So once you finish False Idol, do you have any other plans for any more works, either fan works or your own creative work?
oh fuck. As for fan works, fuck no. Like I've said it on my friend's stream, but False Idol has a secondary purpose. Excuse the claps. That's how I express myself. But the whole reason why like it has a secondary purpose because January was kind of meant to be the end. I'm like, once January's done, I'm like that's why I was so infatuated with like getting everything I could out of it. Like going into all the different angles, talking about this, talking about that. Let's talk about this problem in the comic. Let's talk about this problem in the comic. We're going into this chapter. Let's talk about this chapter. What could be done about this chapter? What can be done about this character? What can be done about this? Blah 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 blah. Hit every single target that we can possibly find until we run out of things to say. That had always been my MO for comics, and especially for January, because the whole point was that once we're done with it, that's it. Then say everything you can so that you never have to say it again. That's the whole point.
And now you got a comic that's almost twice the size of that right afterwards.
Oh yeah. Well, because once I started getting near the end of it, there was this little burning question in my mind that was like, are we really there yet? Because January from start to finish had been completely sketched. It's all traditional pencil and paper. There's nothing else going on in there. There's nothing else. So I'm like, what's the next step? Are we really ready to really dive into that now? I'm like, on the writing side, yeah, I think I'm ready to go for that. I believe that I feel like I've been able to showcase being able to balance hard drama and like serious topics on top of like lighthearted silliness and kind of work them both in tandem to create a very unique experience and get the story the way that I want it to. But artistically, I was like, it's kind of I knew there was one venue that I never got to do that I was too afraid of getting into too fast because I knew it looked like shit. And that was digital. For which again, that's why like it goes back to the fact that January is all traditional. So I was like, let's get the traditional as good as possible and then get into the digital. and kind of figure out how we want to do that. Because then, if the basis of your art looks all right on paper, then the frame of reference that you put on digital will be at least a little better. It'll be slightly better than as if your traditional was shit, then your digital is gonna be shit too. At least that way. Or at least here, the digital will be slightly less shit. And so, like, if we look at the first page of False Idol, like, there's a number of things that did not stick, or that, like, there were some styles and artistic choice or design decisions that I ended up abandoning or just like not using later on in the comic. And so, False Idol in this way is meant to be kind of on the artistic side. It is another practice. It is familiarizing myself with digital and coloring, and or especially colors, and figuring out like what I want to see, how it should look, and all that jazz, how it works, and and getting my hands in there so that I can get a proper feel for how it should be. That's the whole point. But the other point is there was the question that came up in my mind about January after it was all done, or well, all near the end of January, where it's like, okay, if this is the BCB timeline, with January's whole thing is that it skews the timeline, uses the butterfly effect, and reaches it to a completely different conclusion to how the canon is. So, how does, if that's how that is, January, how does that BCB's timeline actually end? How would that comic end? Because January isn't meant to be the ending of BCB or that version or that timeline of BCB. It kind of ends in a sort of cliffhanger. Not really. It's more just like Mike and Lucy work out their different, or like finally get onto speaking terms, and it ends with them being like, all right, come on to my house and we'll work it out, we'll figure this whole thing out and get it through. And they kind of resolve it all off screen. That's the happy ending. That's a great way of ending January. But how does the actual that but that doesn't that wouldn't be how that comic, how you would wrap up BCB as a whole, because there's still like a lot of like, because there's still, as we mentioned before, there's still the whole big thing of Sandy as a conflict for BCB and for January. She's still a factor. So how do you resolve that? And that is what False Idol is. False Idol is the ending of the January timeline. It's how that version of BCB would have ended. And of course, in one last special adventure where the gang goes off on a trip to Washington and meets a whole new bunch of characters and learn about this whole new plot and all these things, and they have a wild time. Revelations happen, relationships get solidified, and there's a touch of danger. Ooh. But yeah. What was the
Full on the
original question?
CW.
I forget.
Sorry.
What was the original question?
I just asked if you had any plans to do anything after this.
Oh, right. Yeah. So yeah, in terms of fan stuff, nothing. False
Nothing.
Idol is the end. The only thing that could potentially carry on from this is a spin-off idea that I had of the character Dan, who, as I mentioned, is a gay guy. And because I kind of brainstormed the idea of like, okay, how does this character, who is this character? What is his backstory? How is he able to be like this kind of out and proud gay guy in 2008 in high school? And how is he able to like survive? How does he handle himself? He's in every situation that we see him, he's very confident. He's self-assured. He's this big stocky guy. And I'm like, he's a jock. Yeah, he plays sports. He's like one of the popular kids. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, what does he play? first go to was of course
Football.
football because that's kind of the go to in American sports.
Mhm.
And
Football or
but
basketball.
then but kind of but I was like, okay, it's kind of that. But then I kind of thought of like or but then there came out this one show called Letterkenny, if you ever heard about it or seen it. Wonderful little Canadian show, and they had this spin-off called Shoresy, which is about this guy who's a hockey player and plays for this amateur hockey league team, local team, and it's hilarious. I love the the sarcastic remarks of it. It's so fucking witty, and I'm like, that's that is the situation that I think Dan would work amazing for. And I started thinking about this idea of spinoff where it's Dan like learning to play hockey and joining the local team in order and figuring out like how it works and how to play hockey, how to be in there. And because he's not used to that environment, he doesn't know how to play hockey at all. His only the only thing that gets him in the team is that he's a big physical guy and he can throw down. That's one of the main reasons why no one fucking attacks him is because he's a beast and he will beat the shit out of anyone. And so like, oh, I got it. So we may have the if I ever do a another furry thing, it would be a spin-off of False Idol where it's the story of Dan playing in a hockey league and with a whole new group of boys that he hangs out with, whole typical camaraderie, Ryder's Wishes sort of story, and where Dan
Money
plays the
Ducks.
role of enforcer, which is just the guy that is on the ice to take fights. He fights for people, and that's his whole role. Well, and sometimes he can play defense, but and I was like, you know what? I was like, what do we call this? Oh, I got it. I got it immediately. I'm gonna call it Fury on Ice. That's it. Gotta do it. There we go.
Kirby on Ice. Got it.
Fury on Ice. That's it. And I'm like, yes, that is the perfect title. I want it. I print it. I'm like, God damn it. But that's gonna be a long one too. But that's not really the main thing that I want to do. That was just a joke. I would love to see it. I think if I do end up doing that, that would be a shorter comic, maybe like I'd probably try to condense that to like 10 pages is what I want to say, but I know in my heart of hearts it'd probably be like 50 pages. But the real thing that I want to do after this, and I've actually printed up one, I've already drawn up one page of it, is this comic called Welcome to Frolic, which is a story about it's a kind of horror comedy sort of story, horror action comedy story about this guy who is the sheriff of the small town or rather this small county called Frolic, Iowa. And it's literally backwater, no go nowhere, no nothing sort of town, population in the under triple digits, simple sort of story. And he's the sheriff of this town. He's kind of got like this character drama going on in the past, but then all of a sudden, one day, supernatural shit just starts happening, and he has to figure out like how the fuck to deal with it. It's kind of if you've ever heard this. Have you ever heard of the story or like heard of the creepypasta Tales from the Gas Station?
I think once before.
Oh, it's fantastic. That was kind of the main inspiration for it because in that story, like it's following this gas station attendant who is just the simple nobody guy. He kind of has some stuff going on, but he is a very simple man, and he's dealing with all this supernatural shit. He's just like, oh yeah, he just casually remarks like, oh yeah, there's a cowboy in the bathroom. I don't think he never really shows up anywhere else, and he doesn't really do too much. He's just very polite. There's been hands sprouting up in the backyard. I've been trying to cut them down to try and get rid of them. There's the fucking there's magical shit and all this supernatural crap, and
And
he
he's
just
just
plays it
genuine
very
as
blunt.
hell. It's just
Yeah, he's very matter of fact and kind of takes it very benignly, and that's kind of how I wanted to take, and that's kind of and so that's the inspiration for the story. It's this sheriff of a small town who is dealing with like werewolves, ghosts, fucking probably vampires and other supernatural shit happening, and all these like spiritual shit coming going on, and he's just trying his hardest to keep it all together and maintain everything, and it doesn't help, and trying to get a grip of everything. And I have a number of stuff already planned for it, like main characters and that sort of thing, and a vague idea of, well, I already know how it's going to end, but kind of how things play out is up in the air.
I'm interested in that one. That's definitely going to be a must read for me.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it has been a fantastic chat with you, but we are out of time right now.
Oh. Yeah,
So,
sorry about all the rambling.
no, it's all right. It's absolutely fine. Having passion for your projects is nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah.
So, if you're interested in reading False Idol, there is a link down below. I believe if I did this right, I have a link to your YouTube channel down there as well.
Yes.
I don't. I have your link to your Twitter. Let me pop a
Oh.
link to your YouTube chat, to your YouTube in the chat real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't do it right. I'm a failure of a streamer.
It's all right. I don't really I think I may have forgotten to post the links to people's socials in the interviews I did as well.
Yeah.
Let me check, actually. Did I do that for
There's a
Enzo?
link to your YouTube in the chat.
Oh, no, I did do that. Sweet. Yay.
Hey, and if this is your first time here, there's a link to my comic, Smoke and Mirrors, down below as well. It is on temporary hiatus. Blue, I think she's out there in the chat, is currently moving halfway across the country.
Ah.
So we'll be back at probably mid-April to get that all back up and going before Smoke and Mirrors moves on to the next stage of their life as we bring the webcomic itself to an end as it is.
Ooh. The next stage, I guess, or
yeah, it's not the last time we've seen Smoke and Mirrors. They'll be back eventually.
Yeah,
but it's just time to try something new.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
No. No, I thought I was going to say something, but I think I'll keep it in the pocket.
Hooray, packing. Yes, the process of putting everything into a box, to move the box, to take everything back out of the box. Right. So, any closing remarks from you?
Yes. Also, I will say thank you for having me. I did want to mention, though, it was funny seeing you talk about, or kind of propose the idea of doing interviews with webcomic artists, because I actually have a series myself. It's called Let's Talk. I've been able to talk to a number of people, surprisingly more than 3, which was a shock to me, including Enzo, creator of Cheer Up Emo Kid, J.W. Balsley, creator of The Devil's Henchman, not 3 guys from the original Dumb comics, if you ever heard of those. You can't find them anymore because the site's gone. Thanks, Gabe. You friggin' lied to me in our interview. I thought you were gonna fucking keep it. That was like the funniest shit, was doing the, because I talked with Gabe Swar. His webcomic was, well, he actually had 2 webcomics. One was a comic called Big Pants Mouse, the pack rat with the magic pants, and Life in the Analog Age, which was a whole nostalgic comic which we actually read in our YouTube channel for Let's Read. And what's fucking funny is like we talked about this channel and or about the website Dumb and like the history of it and like what that was like. And what's fucking hilarious is like we like a month after that fucking video came out, the server domain expired. So I was like, oh
Ah,
well, geez, I guess thanks, Gabe.
I guess that's out of.
Yeah.
I guess
That was
that's
just
out
a
of date
funny thing.
now. Only a month in.
Yeah, but you got him, Dirk Eric Schultz, creator of the Swefts, and also Rusty Hearts, creator of the infamous comic Leastbound, which is lives on in Tumblr infamy. Yeah, but still one of my favorite interviews. She's not a nice person, but she's fun. Yeah.
Yep. I definitely want to try to get more interviews on my site as well. Trying to get the big dream one would be Jay and Chess House, the ones who make Letterbox comics.
I've never heard of it.
It's a simple little comic strip.
Ah,
But that I am seriously out of time, unfortunately.
okay, yeah.
So thank you for coming. Thank you to the chat for arriving. I hope you guys do it. Of course, go check out the comic down in the link below.
Yes, have fun. I should mention. Hopefully, you'll be, even though False Idol and January are comics are fan comics of Bittersweet Candy Bowl. You can still there's still a lot to enjoy without having to read the actual base comic. As Stanton will hopefully be able to attest to. Thank you. Oh. Okay. Bye.
But all right, so that's all from us today. I'm Dr. Crow. I've read a book once, and it's my goal to make you smile. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Gentlemen, I wash my hands of this business.